What happens when a desperate leopard mother faces off against a predator 3 times her size, alone, wounded, and out of time? She climbs, she fights. But what happens next, no one saw coming. Let me get one thing straight. In the wild, there are no handouts, no do-overs, and definitely no good mornings. You survive, or you get snatched from the ground by a feathered monster the size of a Buick. I wasn't always like this. I used to be calm, careful, the type who avoided trouble even if it stared me in the face. That was before I had Kanyu, my last remaining cub. And believe me, that little rascal cracked my heart wide open the second he rolled over in his sleep and sneezed on my tail. We had just made it out of a wildfire that ate half the savannah like it was Sunday brunch. I lost 2 cubs. 2. One got caught in the blaze, the other, well, I didn't have time to bury him. I carried Kanyu in my jaws for 3 nights, bleeding from the pads of my feet because his legs were too shaky to walk. And still, that furball tried to pounce on butterflies like nothing happened. That's how he was, all giggles and guts. That morning I made a dumb choice. I let him play near the edge of the riverbed, just a minute, just enough for me to stretch my back and blink, and then shadows. Now look, I'm not some naive cub fresh off the branch. I know hawks, I know vultures, but this thing had wings like bed sheets flapping in a storm. It didn't just fly, it dragged the wind with it. And in one sickening swoop, it plucked Kanyu right off the ground like a toy from a claw machine. I swear my heart stopped. And I mean actually stopped. I felt it trip over itself. One second he was there pouncing on pebbles like they were prey. The next he was screaming midair while the eagle's claws clamped around him like steel hooks. I lunged. Too late. My claws hit dirt, not feathers. I ran, and every bone in my body screamed. I leapt over thorns, skidded across dry stone, climbed halfway up a cliff like a maniac on fire. But that winged demon soared higher with each second. I could see Kanyu's little legs flailing. I could hear his cry fading in the wind. And do you think the savannah gave a damn? Not a single roar, not a single grunt. I stood at the foot of a rock face, panting like I'd swallowed the sun, staring up at the eagle disappearing into the clouds. And something inside me snapped. I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I roared, loud enough to rattle bones, but not at the eagle, at the sky, at the cliffs, at every creature out there that ever watched and did nothing. I was tired of being the silent one, the shadow, the one that licked wounds in private and kept her head down while nature threw knives. I wanted the whole damn world to know, you took my cub, and I'm coming. And that's when I heard it. Not a reply. More like movement, crunching branches, leaves shifting like they'd just remembered how to breathe. I didn't look back. I was already climbing. To be clear, this isn't just another animal story. This is about what happens when a silent mother finds her voice. And let me tell you, it's just getting started. What happened next changed everything. You don't want to miss how this unfolds. You ever try scaling a cliff with bloodied paws and a chest that's ready to burst from pure panic? No? Lucky you. Me? I was halfway up the vertical face of a rock wall, dragging myself toward a nest I had no business approaching. Except that my kid was up there, dangling between the talons of a flying nightmare. And guess what? That eagle? It didn't care that I was a mother. It didn't care that Kanyu was all I had left. It didn't even bother looking down, just parked itself near a ledge like it had won a prize, like my cub was some kind of souvenir. I gritted my teeth and climbed higher. Every inch of that cliff felt like it was built to kill me. The rock was crumbling under my weight, and every time I reached for a ledge, I half expected it to give way and drop me like a bad decision. But you know what kept me going? That little squeak. Faint, but there. Kanyu was still alive, crying, fighting. That's my boy. Halfway up, my leg gave out. I slipped, scraped the side of my face so hard I saw stars. I hit the wall chest first, gasped, and nearly let go, But I didn't. I clawed back on like my life depended on it, because it did. His life did. Now here's where things got weird. I heard movement. Again. Only this time, it wasn't above me. It wasn't below. It was somewhere in the trees behind the cliff. I froze. The last thing I needed was another predator coming to sniff around, thinking I was an easy snack. I glanced over my shoulder, half expecting some low-life scavenger ready to finish me off. But what I saw, it wasn't what I expected. Something was down there, bigger than me, watching. Quiet, but not threatening. Still, I didn't have time to figure it out. Kanyu's cries got sharper. Desperate. And I knew the clock was ticking. I climbed faster. By the time I reached the narrow ledge below the eagle's perch, I was shaking. My claws were worn down to the quick. My lungs felt like sandpaper soaked in fire. And there it was, the nest. Ugly thing, massive, woven out of bones, bark, and fur scraps from all the things this monster had snatched over the years. And right in the middle, my cub, curled up, shaking, one eye swollen shut, but breathing. The eagle, perched to the side, didn't look alarmed, didn't even flap, just turned its ugly hooked face toward me and blinked like I was the one trespassing. I growled low, and that's when it spread its wings. Now let me pause right here. There are big birds, and then there are prehistoric relics like this one. Things that make grown animals rethink every decision they've made. But I wasn't going to back down. Not after everything. Not when my baby was right there. It lunged. I ducked. We clashed. Claws met fur. Beak snapped inches from my neck, and I swiped hard. Caught feathers, not flesh. The wind off its wings nearly knocked me clean off the ledge, but I stayed grounded. Barely. The fight was brutal. Quick. Sharp. But right when I was about to lunge again, to end it once and for all, something stirred behind us. A sound. Heavy. Grounded. Deliberate. The eagle turned its head first. Then I did. And what I saw? Well, let's just say it made the eagle stop mid-step. This is it. We're standing at the edge of the cliff, literally and figuratively. The moment that flips the story is here. Don't even think about missing what happens next. You ever see fear land in the eyes of a predator? Not just wariness, real, bone-deep fear. The kind that stops movement. That's what I saw in the eagle's face the second it turned toward the sound behind us. For a moment, I forgot I was about to lose my life. Because whatever had stepped onto that cliff made the eagle, a flying tank with knives for toes, take a full step back. And then I saw him. Massive. Gray. Silent. An elephant. Not one of the young wanderers that roam clueless around watering holes. This one had battle scars on his face and notches in his ears like pages torn from a book. An elder. The kind that had seen it all and probably carried more history in his tusks than most of us ever would. He didn't trumpet, didn't stomp. He just stood there, watching, judging, like some ancient force of the savannah had decided to show up and say, "All right, enough of this nonsense." And the eagle, it hissed, actually hissed, a high-pitched, twisted sound, like it wasn't sure whether to fly, fight, or fake its own death. I glanced at Kanyu, still breathing, eyes wide, but alive. That was enough. I turned to the eagle, squared my shoulders, and did what I hadn't done in days. I roared, full-bodied, spine-rattling, and not just for show. I meant every bit of it. "This one's not yours." The eagle twitched. Then, with a screech, it lifted off the ledge and vanished into the sky, winging out over the cliffs without another glance. Coward. I didn't chase it. I turned back toward the nest, pulled Kanyu into my chest, and just stood there, breathing like I hadn't in hours. But the elephant? He was still watching, not moving, not blinking. And then, slowly, he took a step forward. Now I'll admit, I tensed. I've seen elephants lose their temper and flatten full-grown cats like a rug. But this one bowed his head, low, respectfully, not to me, to Kanyu. It hit me in that moment. Maybe he'd lost a calf once. Maybe he remembered the sounds, the panic, the helplessness. Or maybe he was just tired of watching good things get torn away. Either way, he turned and walked away, silent as he came, disappearing into the trees like a ghost that knew his work was done. I didn't speak, didn't move, just held my cub tighter than ever. That's how it ended. Not with violence, not with revenge, but with something rare out here, a moment of shared truth. Turns out even in a world built on instinct and claws, sometimes mercy still has a voice. And that voice? It came when no one expected it. You made it. And if that didn't stir something in you, check your pulse. Nature has a brutal way of teaching us what matters, but every now and then, it lets us win one. Thanks for staying to the end. If you're still thinking about it, good. You were supposed to.